Live from Fargo and serving you on TV, online, and on the go. This is Valley News Live at 10.
Bison Nation will be heading south once again. NDSU's football team is on the verge of winning tonight's semifinal game at the Fargo Dome against the South Dakota State University Jackrabbits. Valley News Live's Alex Egan is here with the very latest, and wow.
Yeah, wow is exactly right. After kind of a shaky start for the Bison, they were only up 14-7 at halftime. They have since poured on 30 second-half points. They have a 44-21 lead very late in this game. Let's show you the scores here as we talk about some of the stats that are going on here. The Bison have run for 385 yards so far in this game. Easton Stick doing the majority of that damage on the ground. He's got 147 rushing yards and 3 rushing touchdowns. Bruce Anderson has added 2 rushing touchdowns of his own and a receiving touchdown. Stick through the air, 12 of 15 for 169 yards, but a game that we thought would be emotional. And would the Bison be able to respond given everything that has happened with Coach Kleiman announcing that he's leaving for Kansas State, for Matt Entz being named the new head coach, and oh yeah, it's a short week and you got your rival coming to the Fargo Dome. It seemed like it didn't matter for North Dakota State.
Just over 4 minutes in the game. You'll have more coming up in sports. We'll also go to the Fargo Dome in just a few minutes to get fan reaction, so stay with us. Our coverage is just beginning. On to the weather, where we can claim victory. It was a wonderful day. Let's find out what's expected from this evening now from Hutch.
Well, we've cooled off from highs this afternoon, which were in the 40s down near the South Dakota border, but we're holding on to around that 30-degree mark here in the valley. So watch for those slippery spots on area roads. Weather-wise, it's very quiet out there, just a few high clouds moving through the northern valley. Here is a look at your overnight forecast, and it looks clear, quiet with a south wind blowing at 5 to 15 miles per hour, temperatures slipping back only into the 20s for most. Looks like a pretty good weekend in store. I'll have details on that, and we'll have a look toward the rest of the month's forecast, Mike, because it's been dry. It looks like it will still be dry. Will we have a white Christmas? We'll talk about that in a bit.
All right, thanks, Hutch.
I never want him to ration that medication. I never want him to feel like we can't go to the pharmacy because we have other bills to pay. I will scrape pennies off the sidewalk to keep my husband alive.
Medication is supposed to help patients, not hurt them, but the rising cost of insulin is putting local families in physical and financial danger. Valley News Team's Veronica Marshall shares one family's emotional story and the push to help them and others find relief.
When he ended up getting discharged from the hospital, I was on my way over to the pharmacy. Don't worry, babe, I'll get your prescriptions filled. And I was thinking $50, $100 maybe, you know. No, it was thousands of dollars. So I stood there and I cried because I didn't have an extra $1,000. A lady ended up giving me money and said, you need this more than I do. And so I don't know her name, and I tried to give it back and she would not give it back or take it back. And I just want to say thank you, and I'll never forget that, ever.
Naomi Birkeland's husband needs insulin to live after an illness wiped out his pancreas 3 years ago. But Birkeland says rising drug costs are forcing the family to make tough decisions.
Between paying my premiums to have the insurance and the insulin out of pocket, I'm paying about $11,400 a year. I love him. I want him to live, but I also need a roof over my children's head. So it gets to be very hard financially.
Her family isn't alone. More than 7 million Americans need insulin to live, but insulin prices have nearly tripled since 2002, causing some patients to go to extreme lengths to afford their medication.
If your regimen requires a certain dose, and that's the dose that you need, well, if you can't afford to have that dose, then you'll try to lower the dose to then make the medicine last longer.
But cutting back on insulin puts users at risk for heart disease, stroke, blindness, kidney failure, and amputations. Now families, doctors, and advocates are turning to politicians for relief.
There's a push to try to talk to senators and try to get legislature to try to say that this is not okay. The price that we pay for insulin here in America is probably about 6 times higher than what they do in Europe anyway, for the same insulin.
State Senator Tim Mathern says he wants to help, but he needs residents to speak up.
Citizens are not at the legislature very often. Pharmaceutical companies are. I would be most willing to work with citizens about legislation in that regard, but we need a groundswell. We need a greater movement of people asking for this.
Birkeland says legislators need to do something now because it's not just her family who's suffering.
If you think about all the younger kids coming off their parents' insurance, I mean, they can't afford that. Nobody can.
Veronica Marshall, Valley News Live.
Some patients also try to buy their insulin overseas or online to get cheaper prices. Doctors don't recommend that, saying they can't guarantee those drugs are safe. But you can buy older formulas of insulin for a cheaper price at stores like Walmart. Doorbell cameras are coming in handy as homeowners look to protect their property from thieves and porch pirates. In one of the most recent cases locally, a camera got a good look at the thief and a vehicle. Police have since located the vehicle and say they're making progress on finding those involved.
Maybe it's just one of those Ring camera systems and another camera that will link to it from a different location or a different angle from your home, especially in those darker areas where people might try to lurk back on the side of the house.
Another way of protecting your packages is asking your delivery service to hold your boxes or asking a neighbor to hold them until you get home. Police also warn you to watch out for people following delivery service drivers, saying it's better to call something suspicious and rather than have it leave your premises. And police say that they have found the stolen car taken from outside a home in Fargo yesterday. However, the person's belongings are gone. Yesterday, we told you about Brittany Lizakowski, who lives in the area of 3300 block of 16th Avenue South. That's where 8 other cars were broken into and hers was taken. 3 people were arrested in the case, but authorities say a 4th person involved in the theft of the car is still on the run. And if you have any information about the car theft, you're asked to contact police. A national TV news magazine has been looking into the mystery of a missing TV anchor with an episode set to air this weekend. 48 Hours will reveal new information about the 1995 disappearance of Jody Huisentruit of Otter Tail County tomorrow. Some of the new information that will be revealed Saturday will focus on the last person to see Huisentruit alive, John Vanis. He was the subject of a search warrant for GPS information on 2 of his vehicles just last year. He denies any involvement, and police told 48 Hours he passed a polygraph.
If you only focus in one direction, you're missing everything that's happening around it. So I really hope that they focus on the other theories as well.
Host, who is a friend of Jody, said that she appreciates the renewed interest in the case, adding that we just hope that we finally get some answers and find her. A family is grieving a tragic loss after a young woman from Andover, Minnesota was killed in the Netherlands. A man stabbed 21-year-old Sarah Pappenheim to death in her home in Rotterdam. She was studying psychology at Erasmus University, Rotterdam. Family and loved ones are still trying to piece together the violent attack inside her apartment suite near campus.
Found her in a bath of blood, stabbed to death, and beat up and stabbed for no reason except wanting to be his friend or trying to be his friend.
It's the second time the family has been hit with tragedy after losing Pappenheim's brother to suicide a couple of years ago. A memorial fund for Pappenheim on GoFundMe has already raised more than $7,000.